Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. This is the second consecutive day we are recording the Fantasy Football Funhouse. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, you are not getting this until Friday, but we are recording live on YouTube on Wednesday evening, which is awesome. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to get this out of the way for the week. As we've talked about several times between us, the co-hosts, Sal Lito and Steve Marcus and myself, we used to record on Thursdays, and it kind of sucked because we didn't get to watch the games. And as much as Thursday Night Football is usually an interesting game and not always exciting, it's still fun to watch. So recording on Wednesdays going forward, and just so everyone is aware, we will be doing that for the whole season. So it'll be a good time for us. You'll be getting this podcast on a Friday. If you subscribe to our podcast feeds, if you're watching this on YouTube, you should go subscribe to the podcast feeds. Everywhere, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them, that'd be great. That would help us out. And as Steve likes to remind me, I always forget to tell people to rate and review. That'd be nice as well. So what's going on, boys? Are you excited to be here on Wednesdays?
Woo, 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 woo. I'm excited. Like you said, we don't have to record on Thursday anymore, but having to talk to you back to back, that's going to be a little rough. That's going to wear on me throughout the year. So, you got to grind.
The tough thing for you really is going to be the fact that I don't know that we're planning to do the Sunday shows this year. We haven't discussed that yet, but it doesn't sound like we're going to be doing the Sunday night reviews anymore. And that means you don't get drunk Kevin, aka fun Kevin.
That's true.
So
we're used to that.
Just special pieces, like special 15-minute drunk Kevin clips.
Like a call in from the stadium.
This is Kevin checking in with a review of the game.
Patriots, you guys know win. I love you all.
Very emotional.
I really love falafel.
A lot of love when I'm at the Patriots games, and frankly, why wouldn't there be a lot of love? They win a lot, so it's nice.
True.
So, but we do have a packed show for you tonight. We are going to quickly discuss the upcoming Thursday night game. We are going to discuss all of the other games. For those of you listening on the podcast feed, Steve probably already cut out the mention of the Thursday game, so. Good for him. Congratulations, Steve.
Thanks.
We're going to get to it.
For you.
As we've talked about, as of Wednesday, the one thing we have to talk about before we get into any games, Le'Veon Bell is still not in camp or the season. It's the season, and he's not here. He did not report today like most people thought. We talked about it a little bit yesterday on the previous podcast that I thought that you could give him till Friday before you really had to panic, but Sal, his agent came out and said some things today that threw a little concern towards people.
Yeah, and I was the one who was saying, hey, if he's not in by Thursday, that's when you should worry. And speaking to a couple of people on Twitter today, got to answer a couple of questions for some people during the live Matthew Berry podcast, and one guy asked me if he should take a deal that involved T.Y. Hilton and one other, a lesser running back for Bell. And I told him no. I said, wait, he's going to be in. I'm positive. I'm confident he'll be in by at least week 2, because I think we're already at the point where week 1 is now an issue. And then I get the updates, and then I get home and I get to listen to it. And I thought about what his agent was saying. They're saying there's a legitimate chance that Le'Veon Bell might not come in to week 10. And the reason is they know Pittsburgh's going to run him into the ground this year. He's not going to sign back with Pittsburgh. He's not going to sign a long-term deal there. So if he comes in, they know this is it. They know he's playing for a big contract. They are going to abuse him. And that's the stance that him and his agent are taking now. And that was the first time I said, they might legitimately be serious about not coming in. So if I'm a Bell owner, I'm listening to reasonable offers. Reasonable. I'm not selling them for pennies, because there is always a chance that they're just, trying to twist the horns a little bit. But I am legitimately now concerned as a Bell owner. If I did not get Connor, I'm worried.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think he's missed so much of the first week of the season so often that you kind of knew that he could play it pretty close. But now with everything that came out today, You don't know if this is just an XPR move to try and get the Steelers to budge a little bit. But yeah, it's starting to get a little real. I think week 1 is in doubt. I don't think he's going to be there in week 1 at all. And so you have to start thinking about week 2. It's just something that you're going to have to deal with all year now. And you hope that he's not out until week 10 because he's so good. He's going to hurt so many teams. So yeah, you definitely, if you didn't have Connor, you hopefully got Alfred Morris. You hopefully got someone else that on the waiver this week, but definitely in doubt, definitely something that those people are going to have to think about and worry about all year, it seems like.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good situation as a top 4 draft pick in just about every league you could possibly think of. A dynasty asset that a lot of people who are going for championships are working, with and we're hoping for, one good last really good season before the uncertainty to hit next year. And now you have to deal with this. It's tough for everyone. Hopefully you grab Connor and because it looks like the teammates are starting to throw their support behind him. You see them coming out and saying they're disappointed that Bell isn't there and that they're going to roll with the backup Connor and make it work. So it's a messy situation. Hopefully we'll get some clarity. Maybe this will be irrelevant when you're listening to this on the podcast feed. So if it is, we apologize and welcome back Le'Veon Bell.
Where you guys were drafting tonight, last draft before the season, and you were in a spot where Bell fell to you. I mean, where would he have to fall? Where would you have to be picking to comfortably take him? So I'm thinking we would take the other 3 backs. I know Kevin would go Kamara before him at this point.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
All right, so let's say you're at the 5. 3, 4, including Kamara, have gone. Saquon's there.
Probably taking Saquon.
I'd probably take Saquon. I'd take Antonio Brown.
I don't think
easily.
He can be a first-round pick with this going on. With any chance at all of him missing 10 weeks, which is possible. I mean, I get it. We think it could be 1, but it could be 10. With any chance of that, how can you spend your first-round pick on him? You just can't. I don't think you can. So for me, I think someone will. So I probably wouldn't have him on my team if I'm drafting today.
Makes sense. I don't have him on many of my teams anymore, and it's not because of that specifically, but I wouldn't be taking him right now either.
All right. Well, we will continue to monitor that situation, but we have some actual football to talk about tonight, and I think I know that yesterday we let Steve do a lot of the talking. He took us through some of the games. Sal kind of abused him and, didn't let him, lead us. And that's, we're going to let him talk again tonight, though. But before we do that, we just want to remind everyone that we are on the Gridiron Experts feed. You can find us there now. Sal, I know that you are on there all the time. There's lots of great stuff there, and you love to talk about them. So let's let you do that.
No, there's other podcasts there along with us. The FF Face Off guys do a fantastic job, and they pump out tons of content a week. And you have some fantastic writers doing wonderful work. I was on the site today. They are in full week 1 mode. They have shifted from draft season. There is a ton of content for week 1. So gridironexperts.com. Get there, and just you're going to have everything you need. It's pretty much a one-stop shop for podcasts and stories. I like my stories.
Yeah, they do have some great stuff. And as the editor of a website that used to provide content, I can tell you that's a lot of work. So check out some of their stuff because it's good. It's great material. It's definitely better than the old sink or swim we used to have on our site. And
Wait a minute. I think I might have written some of those.
You may have written that, but yeah. All right, so Steve, let's get to it.
All right. Well, then we got to start with the first game of the week. That is the Thursday night game. The Atlanta Falcons at the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But these are not the Eagles. I'm sorry. It's true. All facts. These are not the Eagles that you remember seeing last year. Maybe not so much, but Carson Wentz not starting the season at quarterback. It's going to be Nick Foles. Alshon Jeffrey not starting. He's not playing. He's out with that shoulder injury, recovering from surgery there. So they are not at full strength. They're playing the Falcons. I know we talked earlier on the podcast about, or on the last podcast, about the line for this game. It has completely shifted It is now Falcons -1. They're the favorites in this game, and so they are at full strength. Sal, we will start with you. What from this game are you looking forward to the most to seeing? All offseason, we've had a chance to talk about all of these players. We now get to finally see them on the field. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, well, real quick about that -1, Warren Sharp wrote a quick article. If you're not following Warren Sharp, you're missing out on some great detail. The guy is fantastic at what he does. And what he pointed out is that the Thursday night home opener for the Super Bowl champion, it goes back to 2004. Only one team, the Ravens, opened up on the road because I believe some kind of baseball issues. But the 13 other teams, 11 of them started the season with the same quarterback that won the Super Bowl the year before, and all of them were favored by a minimum of 3 points, an average of 5.5. This is the first time in the history of the Thursday night game that has been under 3, let alone an underdog. So the money is clearly on the Falcons. So I don't know, Steve, you're a gambling guy. We might have to shift to the Eagles on something like this, but you know. Yeah,
home dog. Opening night, home dog. I don't know. The home dogs are popular, sharp favorites. So if the line shifts anymore, I wouldn't be surprised for them to move that way.
Starting to become a different field than just only 24 hours ago. Yeah. What more can you say about this game? We discussed this earlier in the week. I'm not confident. I'm not starting Nick Foles. If you're in a situation where you took Carson Wentz early and you did not get a backup and you're stuck starting Nick Foles, you suck. All right? You suck at fantasy football.
Ouch.
I'm going to probably play Ajayi in a couple of leagues because I don't have better options. It's a short week. I don't love it. So if you have good options, if you have good matchups, if you have a guy playing.
It's a short week. He's had 7 months off.
But he hasn't been practicing, right? So they started his prep like it was a game week. So he's only really been practicing for the last 2 days. Shut up, Steve.
That sounds like spin. That just sounds like spin.
For me, I'm starting all my Falcons. I'm comfortable starting all my Falcons, and that's it's Ryan and it's the usual suspects. Julio, both running backs. I don't know about Hooper, Kevin, but
hey,
yeah. I'm staying away from the Eagles. I would like to see. I'm interested to see the dynamic of how much Corey Clement is used.
You know what? One of the things that's interesting to me about this game, and you mentioned starting both your running backs for the Falcons, but I'm reminded of the fact that the Eagles were really good against running backs last year, and we keep hearing about how the overall the team itself, the Eagles, with the exception of the injuries, they're bringing back a lot of the same personnel, right? They're one of the there's not a lot of turnover from last year to this year, as far as on the defensive unit and even in the offensive unit. And the Eagles gave up an average of 14.1 points per game to running backs last year. So I'd be a little nervous starting the season off. I mean, I think you're going to have Freeman in your lineup because he's a first, second, or third round pick, right? But Coleman's not a guy that he might be on my bench for this opening week because I think I can see a low scoring game to start the season, even though these are two higher powered offenses. But I think these are better defenses than people give credit for. And, we've seen the rust on Thursday nights and even more so Thursday nights to open the season. So I'd be a little concerned there.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a little bit of the hangover game. Like I said, Eagles, second in the league in defending running backs. They did give up 5 receiving touchdowns to running backs last year. And both of these backs catch balls, right? But Coleman does play more of the third down role in this offense. But yeah, I mean, it's not if you got other guys with better matchups, Coleman, you definitely get Freeman in there. But I'll probably have Coleman in a roster or two out of 700.
Obviously, you're starting Julio. The real question is, will you have a guy like Mohamed Sanu in the lineup to start this one? I don't see how you can. I don't see why you would. Shouldn't have any, too many injuries unless you have Alshon on your roster, and Sanu's your 4th or 5th guy. So,
yep, I agree there. I was gonna say Calvin Ridley, also somebody that you might want on your roster, not someone you're gonna start, but between those two, I want to see how the volume is spread between those two guys. After Julio gets his, I want to see how it's spread between those two because Calvin Ridley obviously is somebody to pay attention to going forward. All right, we've got a lot of games to get through. Shall we carry on, gentlemen? All right.
We shall. But before we do, Steve, I got to tell you, ever since we've started this podcast, people have been asking us for advice. And in fact, more often than not, people tend to ask you who they should bet on. And
that's right. I don't know why.
I think, yeah, exactly. The truth is, you have no idea who's going to win. I have no idea who's going to win. And even though Sal may tell you he knows who's going to win, he doesn't. He has no idea.
Oh, I know.
Sure.
But the one thing you do have to know is you got to check out MyBookie. Who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. And that's why I always tell people to check out MyBookie. Trust me, guys, they are your best bet this season. They've been in business for years. They have great reviews online. Their mobile site is easy to use. We've seen Steve continuously give us lines from mybookie.com on a regular basis. You've already seen it in the first 2 episodes of this season. So get in there and lay down some big cash and win big today. Look, we only recommend stuff that we use. Obviously, I just said Steve's looking up lines regularly. We know that he's a huge gambler and a kind of a problem, Steve. We addressed it a little bit last year, but maybe we should talk about it again
after the season. Just one more season.
You know what?
That's the only one I need.
All right, that's fine. Because you know what? When you make bets at MyBookie, you win and they pay. They have in-game betting, live betting, most rewarding player perks in the business for you and all of the fantasy players out there as well. You can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score in each game. That's pretty sweet, Steve. Have you done that yet?
I have not. So, that is awesome.
So, Sal, did you hear that? You can go in and bet an over-under on a particular player on how many fantasy points they're going to score.
Yeah, actually, I heard somebody mention that today, and I was like, hey, MyBookie. I like those guys. They're
great.
Us.
They are great guys. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit $1 for $1. Use promo code FFL to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code FFL when creating your account to get the bonus. Remember, you play, you win, you get paid.
FFL, that's got to be the easiest promo code. If you don't get that in there, you're costing yourself money. Free bets. Who doesn't love free bets?
$1 for $1. It's 100% match.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. All right. We must
$5 on there.
We must carry on and get into the weekend slate of games. I said we had a lot to get through, so let's get through this one quickly. First up is the Buffalo Bills traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Both of these teams look a little different than last year. You got a new wide receiver core for the Ravens. You got a new quarterback for the Bills, some new wide receivers there as well. Kevin, we will start with you. Is there anybody from this game outside of Alex Collins that you are really considering? We know LeSean McCoy. Come on. I know you're going to get there. Of course.
I know you're just trying to lead me down the road, but it's not even a question, right?
Come on.
It shouldn't be, no.
John Brown's in the lineup, isn't he? Honestly, is he not in your lineup as a flex right now, given the preseason that he had?
In a 12-team league, no. He's not.
Yeah, I guess more of a 14, 16-team league is the guy that I'm definitely looking at. Yeah, he's in a couple of my rosters. But you know what? He's one of those fringe guys that if you're looking at your flex players and you maybe you went heavy on the rookies and you're not quite sure what they're going to do yet or things like that, or you have Alshon, he's definitely a guy that I would consider in this game outside of Alex Collins, because he's the one guy I think can have upside if you're playing in a on draft in a or in weekly or daily fantasy or whatever. He's a guy that I'd look at as a low cost option because there is upside. I think basically I think the Buffalo Bills are terrible. I think defensively, offensively, all around they are an awful team. I actually expect Baltimore to kind of light them up, and I can see John Brown, having a long touchdown catch in this one.
That surprises me that you say that.
Yeah, I'm
really,
sure.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked about this.
So that's the Baltimore side. I don't know if you were going to ask me about the Buffalo side of the ball. Obviously, LeSean McCoy, I think he's in your lineup if you have him, but I wouldn't expect great things. Their offensive line looks terrible. Nathan Peterman will be the quarterback, so you certainly can't start any of the pass catchers. Unless you're starting Baltimore defense, which I highly recommend. But, that's it. I guess McCoy's the only guy I'm getting in there.
I was actually going to ask Sal about the the Buffalo offense. So
well, that's fine. I'm in complete agreement with that. I'm going to play McCoy because likely he fell to me, but I still took him at a fairly high draft value. The Ravens were 20th in overall defending running backs last year in 0.5 PPR. So there's a possibility. Don't give me this. They're going to be playing from behind. I'm going to get some wide receivers in there. Baltimore gave up 6 touchdowns to wide receivers last year. Just 6. They were 4th best in the league at defending wide receivers. So there is not a person on that roster outside of McCoy that I'd be playing. Maybe the kicker.
Justin Tucker, absolutely, every single week. Outside of Alex Collins and LaShawn McCoy, I think in most leagues, those are the only 2 guys that I would feel comfortable having in my week 1 lineup. So we are going to move on.
Wait. 2 quarterback leagues, you may want to throw Flacco in there because I do think, like I said, I think he's going to light them up. This is the week to go with Flacco. So
sell high. All right, we're going to move on. The New York Giants are at home. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming into town. Jalen Ramsey talking all of his smack off season. We've got Odell Beckham with the new contract, Saquon Barkley there, Evan Ingram, the Giants offense up against this Jacksonville defense. Sal, what are you expecting from the offense of New York this week against the Jaguars?
Yeah, I mean, after all this talk that I have Odell Beckham Jr. as my number 1 wide receiver this year, I'm expecting great things. Jaguars were the number 1 team in defending fantasy wide receivers last year. Does that mean you sit him? No, you cannot sit Odell Beckham Jr. because there's still the possibility, like I always use this comparison. Are you telling me that Odell Beckham Jr. is not as good at his job as Jalen Ramsey is? They're probably 2 of the closest people as far as who are the best at their jobs in the NFL. And I'm going to have to take a chance that Odell's got some tricks up his sleeve and knows how to get loose and maybe bails me out with a touchdown. So I'm playing OBJ there. I'm not expecting a ton of receptions or yardage totals, but I'm hoping that I'm bailed out. 11th against tight ends last year, Jacksonville, so probably going to start Evan Ingram. And this is Saquon's debut. We, throughout the year last year, said that if you were going to attack the Jags, it was going to have to be through the running game. And with that pass defense being the way it is, I would imagine he's going to see, I'm going to say 25 touches in this game. And I want a volume running back like that. I think it's going to be a pretty decent game. Jacksonville likely comes out on top. But I'm going to play my Giant studs. I'm probably not playing Eli in a game like this or Sterling Shepard, but I'm going to play the other 3 guys.
All right, Kevin, on the Jacksonville side of the ball, you've got Leonard Fournette, who obviously you're hoping that Jacksonville runs their offense through him, so he's going to be in there. Blake Bortles, you mentioned Flacco in a 2-quarterback league. I think Blake Bortles is a 2-quarterback type of quarterback. So my question for you is the Jacksonville wide receiver core, another one of your loves, Dante Moncrief, in that wide receiver core. Which of these guys are you leaning on first to start the season? Any of these guys? Keelan Cole, also there, Dede Westbrook. Is Dante Moncrief, do you have faith in him this week, or is he someone that's going to be waiting on your bench until he actually proves his worth?
I don't think as much as I love him and would love to put him in the lineup, I don't think there's really a guy on the Jaguars offense outside of Fournette that I'm really looking to start this week. You mentioned Bortles in a 2 QB league, and maybe he gets something. But I think the Giants defense is going to be better than people expect this year. I think they're clearly going to be better than they were last year. So, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable with Moncrief. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable with Keelan Cole. I think you have to wait and kind of see how that shakes out a little bit. And I'm waiting on most of that offense.
Sounds fair. I don't think that there's going to be one of those guys that you're going to be able to rely on every single week. I think they are going to rotate, and it's going to be impossible to try and nail down which one of those guys to put into your lineup. So
hey,
we are going.
Steve, can I just say, and I do agree with Kevin. The Giants will be a little bit better, but the Giants gave up the most passing touchdowns in the league last year, 32. Blake Bortles, QB1 this week.
Didn't Jenkins miss a lot of games last year?
Who? Never heard of him.
Yeah, I think both of their corners actually were out for a large portion of the season last year. They couldn't get any pass rush.
Touchdown passes.
Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, if Bortles throws more than one touchdown, I would be impressed.
Man, I wish I was writing sink or swim this year.
I'll bet you some ass bucks on over 1.5.
I'm thinking the people at home don't know what ass bucks are. And they're
Yeah, this is going to get weird.
Yeah, that
Right.
got awkward.
Yeah, we should probably carry on here. All right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to New Orleans to face the Saints. Kevin, what are you expecting from this Tampa Bay offense this year? Mike Evans, the stud wide receiver. You got Peyton Barber, the starting running back, but no Jameis Winston going into New Orleans, whose defense we talked about on the last podcast, much improved. What do you think you can expect from them? These are two guys that are good, should get a lot of volume. Are they just automatic starts this week?
I don't think either of them are. I mean, Mike Evans is an automatic start, I guess, because he's in that OBJ category where you're going to put him in your lineup no matter the matchup and no matter who the quarterback is. He could have a couple of down weeks here in the beginning of the season, though. I don't have too much faith in Ryan Fitzpatrick being a number one quarterback. I think it's a joke that they've even mentioned that Jameis Winston isn't confirmed as the starter for when he comes back. That's crazy. He will be there. I like this offense as the season progresses, week 4, 5, 6. Mid-season is where you'll really start to see them turn around, and I expect big things out of Evans, and I think Ronald Jones at some point will get things going as well. I like Peyton Barber, but I don't think he'll hold on to the job all year. And, I just think that it's going to be a little while. So I don't know that, honestly, except for Evans, I don't know that there's anyone on this roster that I'm starting for the first 3 weeks. Except in deeper leagues. Maybe Barber in a deeper league where running backs are thin, I guess.
All right, that makes sense. Sal, we'll move on to the Saints. Alvin Kamara there, but Mike Gillislee was picked up off of waivers after the Patriots cut him last week. He seems to be snuggled into the running back 2 slot already. That's right. He's moved right in there. What kind of value would you see? I don't think anyone should be starting him this week, obviously, but do you see a future for him in that role there? Do you think Mark Ingram is in any type of trouble? What do you think about that signing and that fit?
Yeah, I don't think Mark Ingram's in any type of trouble, but Mark Ingram's a definite better back than Gillislee. But I think you have an opportunity here in the deeper leagues, those 14-team leagues, where 16-team leagues like we draft in, where you're struggling to find a third wide receiver and a flex play. I think Gillislee, this is the time to use him. And again, we've said this about other running backs. If Gillislee does get a touchdown this week and people are all excited, trade him. Counter on that, that big play. Bucks were 27th in defending running backs last year. So I'm thinking this is a big Alvin Kamara week. I think Kamara is just quite possibly the number one running back in fantasy football this week. I think the Bucks are just bad. I said it on the last episode. Dirk Cutter to me is the first guy fired this year. I think it is a joke, Kevin, like you're saying, that Winston doesn't get his job back this year. But I'm not so sure Winston's there beyond this year. I think this whole thing might get blown up, and I think it's going to be that type of year for the Bucks. I think you're going to be just happy to start all your players whenever you see the Bucks come into town. Michael Thomas clearly is in your lineup every week. That's a no-doubter. And I'm going to wait on guys like Cam Meredith and a rookie to see what they've done. Ben Watson. Kevin's big on Ben Watson this year. I did grab him as a second tight end somewhere else. But, again, the usual suspects in this. Drew Brees clearly is in there. But big stuff for Kamara this week.
All right, start your Saints. Kevin, anything to add? No? All right, very good. Then let's go on and talk about your beloved Patriots. We will start with you again, Kevin. This game, the Houston Texans at the New England Patriots, is the highest total of any game this week on MyBookie. It is at 51 points, so you can expect, or Vegas at the very least, expects a lot of points to be scored. Tell us about your offense. What are you expecting from those guys this week? The Texans defense should be a little improved from last year. They were pretty bad, but they got a lot of new pieces, a lot of pieces back. What do you think is going to happen? Tom Brady not going to have any trouble?
It's tough as a Patriots fan to see them playing the Texans week 1 because it's, probably the only time that defense will be fully healthy all year. They have lots of guys that seem to have injuries pop up at different times. I don't know that their top 3, which would be Watt, Merciless, and Clowney I don't know if they've ever even been on the field all together at the same time. So that's dangerous when you're talking about from an offensive standpoint. But having said that, while Brady may take a couple extra sacks this week, and the offensive line has looked up and down a little bit for the Patriots, I still expect this offense to get theirs. Brady's going to be fine. I have no problem starting him. I expect him to be, a top 5 quarterback at the end of the week. I think Hogan is a great play here. You're going to see him get he's going to be targeted a lot because they kind of have to. Gronk is Gronk. If you don't have Gronk in your lineup, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. Don't overthink it. Just put him in there. So I think those guys
tell
are fine.
They suck, Kevin. Just tell them I said it.
I try to be a little nicer to the listeners, Sal. Boston people are a little more polite. That's all. But yeah, so I think those guys are going to be fine. From the running backs, it's tough with the Patriots. I don't know if you can bank on any one of them this season. I've been on record as saying I think Sony Michel will fall into a significant role at some point in the season, but this is not the week to do it. James White is will have some. He's a good flex for bye weeks and things like that, but only when you get a little later in the season and you're having some struggles. Week 1, I don't expect anyone to play any of these running backs.
Word was today he would lead the team in running back touches this week.
James White?
Yes.
Of course he will. Of course he will. Now you know that Burkhead's going to get like 20 carries and catch the ball. So
yeah, Michelle was limited in practice today, so we'll have to see. I agree with you. I'm staying away from those running backs this week.
He's been banged up all preseason, so just to expect him to come out of nowhere and have a heavy workload as a rookie, it's just not going to happen.
All right, we will move on to the Houston Texans side of the ball. You've got Deshaun Watson coming back from his injury. I know a lot of people invested a lot of capital into him, so you're getting him out there excited to see what he is going to look like. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously. What about Lamar Miller, somebody that we both, or all three of us, were pretty high on, someone who's going to get a lot of volume because of Donta Foreman being placed on the PUP list to start the year? Sal, is he somebody that you're just running out against this Patriots team? He is somebody that you didn't necessarily have to start, but what do you think about this matchup for Lamar Miller? Are you getting him out there week 1?
Yeah, the Pats gave up a lot of yardage to running backs last year. They only end up giving up 9 total touchdowns, 5 rushing and 4 receiving. But if you remember how just really terrible they were at the beginning of last year, they were like a sieve. I mean, they were winning games, but they were giving up a ton of yardage. And that defense settled in. It's amazing if you look over some of the spots where they finished, more towards the middle of pack in a lot of these statistics because they were so bad at the beginning. I'm probably going to play Lamar Miller this year because most likely he's my number 2, at worst a flex RB for me on my team. So I'm going to get him in there. I'm expecting yardage. I don't know how many touchdowns I'll get, but he's a 3-down guy, and he's got an absolute opening to volume and touches. So you don't want to sit 3-down guys against average defenses. So yeah, I'd get Lamar Miller in there. I was not a Deshaun Watson guy. I've been adamant about that in the offseason, so I wouldn't have him on my team to make that decision. But like you said, Steve, largely taken as a number 2 overall quarterback. So he's going to be in there for you. And, of course, you got Nuke in there. That's no doubt about it. Other than that, there's nobody else. Fuller was limited in practice today, so he's not a guy I feel like I need to have in there.
Yep, and somebody that you shouldn't have to be relying on so far this year. All right, we're going to move on. 49ers going to Minnesota to face the Vikings. Kirk Cousins led Vikings. Dalvin Cook coming back from his ACL. Jimmy Garoppolo, though, is going to come back for the 49ers. You got George Kittle there. You got Marquise Goodwin, Pierre Garçon, and then no more Jerick McKinnon. You got Matt Breida and Alfred Morris manning the show there. Sal, we'll start with you. What are you expecting from Jimmy Garoppolo going into Minnesota, facing this defense? A lot of hype for him this year. Do you think it's going to be a little bit of a dud to come out of the gates against the Vikings?
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be a dud as much as he's just going to be overwhelmed. I mean, he really didn't have any poor feedback last year, right? There was no opportunity for him to not succeed. They didn't play tremendous teams down the stretch, and he did well. He wasn't, you go back and look at those numbers, he wasn't fantastic. I think Garoppolo's going to be good. I think that you might be able to trade for him after this game because I think he's going to get absolutely battered. I think Minnesota is going to come out ferociously in this game and keep the entire 49er offense in check. I am starting all 49ers with hesitation. That means if I have to start them, if I have no other choices, I get them in there. But I am looking for other guys on my roster with better matchups. I don't like this matchup at all for anybody, anywhere. All around fantastic defense in Minnesota.
Kevin, how do you feel about Minnesota's side of the ball?
Yeah, Minnesota's side of the ball has a little bit of a brighter pathway to scoring some points. So I agree with Sal. I think their defense is phenomenal, but and I can't think of a single roster where I'm starting any 49ers. I think maybe I have Jimmy Garoppolo going in a super flex league, but that's about it. And I only have two quarterbacks in that league, so he's got to have to start. So I think for Minnesota, yeah, I'm still nervous. I think you're probably starting him because you probably had to take him pretty high. So, but Dalvin Cook, I would be nervous about in this particular game. I don't know that San Francisco's defensive line is good enough to actually stop him, but I'd still be, we see hesitation on those guys come back from the knee injuries. They're not quite, ready to go. They're not used to contact. They're not used to playing games, and there's a little hesitation sometimes. So I'd be a little nervous with him. Outside of that, yeah, I'm probably starting all of them. Diggs, Thielen, definitely get him in there. Rudolph's probably our tight end one this week in some way, so he'll find his way there. Cousins is the guy that I think I'm on the fringe with, and I know that sounds funny, but if you're in a 12-team single quarterback league, he's a guy that you might have a better option. I don't know that he finishes as a QB1. Maybe he does, but I don't know. You might have some better options. There's some good matchups out there for quarterbacks.
He does. He does finish as a QB1.
Where would you put him, Steve? I mean, if you had to, I know you didn't do ranks, but if you had to, off the cuff throw a rank at him, where you think for sure he's top 12?
I think it'd probably be back end. I think it would be the 9 through 12 area without, getting everybody, looking at everybody in there. But yeah, I think so. I think against this defense, I think this first game on this offense, I think they're going to want to try and prove a point. I think they'll let him loose. I think this defense is not going to be able to really stop all the offensive weapons that they have. So I think he's going to pretty easily rack up 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think that'll be enough to get him into that top 12 range.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking at it. I mean, from the games that we talked about, the Saints, the Patriots, the Texans, I guess I expect all of those quarterbacks just to finish ahead of Cousins. Eli's probably close, and I think Flacco's going to have an oddly good game. So, and then we're going to get the games we're going to get into going forward. You just have some really sweet matchups that I like a lot better. So,
you want to do a Flacco Cousins bet?
Flacco Cousins bet for this week only?
Yeah.
I'll do a bet. What do you want to bet?
I don't know. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, good God. Write it down.
All right, let me get that on the floor here in a second. We'll move on to the next game while we're doing that. Kevin, tell me, from these two teams, is there one person that you are actually legitimately excited about putting on your team at all? The Titans versus the Dolphins.
No, I'm not on mute. There's no one. No, that's a lie. Corey Davis, obviously, I've been big on him all season. I like Mariota. I got him in a lot of places. I don't know that he's another one of those guys. I don't know he's a top 12 this week. Although the Dolphins are pretty terrible, so this would be a good week for him. So he's fringe as well, but Corey Davis is a guy I'm going to be starting just about every week this season. Outside of that, no.
All right, the Dolphins, terrible.
Yeah, no, there's nothing on that side either.
But Sal, last year and the year before that, we heard you talk a lot about Derrick Henry. He was your favorite running back. You love Derrick Henry. You acquired him in all of your dynasty leagues. And now he's got a clear path to a bunch of volume, and we don't hear you talking about Derrick Henry anymore. What's going on with that?
I don't feel like he has a clear path to all that volume anymore. It disappointed me so much when they got Dion Lewis. I mean, it's comical when you see the size difference between these two guys, and there's an actual competition. But Dion Lewis does what he does, and he does it well. So I feel like they've been splitting touches. Here's what I'll say: I would play both of them this week. If you have to, because the Dolphins were 26th against running backs last year. They gave up over 1,500 yards, and they gave up 98 receptions to running backs. So I think that the power of this offense is through those two running backs. I'm not a high on Mariota like Kevin is. We've talked about that before. I think Mariota's a good NFL quarterback, not a great fantasy quarterback. So If I have to play anybody this game, it's Derrick Henry. But I'm also very happy to start Dale Lewis if I have him somewhere.
All right, fair enough.
Very happy to start Dion Lewis.
I'd be very happy. I'd be happy.
I don't know.
Moderately happy.
If I was starting Dion
happy?
Lewis week 1, I wouldn't feel too happy about my chances
I feel like he'd be
from my
lukewarm.
He'd be my flex. I'd be flexing with him. I'd be like, what up?
It's weird.
He probably flexes a lot better than you do.
Guaranteed.
Well, I'm taller than him, but I'm sure his muscles are nicer.
All right, we're going to move on. Sal, we'll start with you. The Cincinnati Bengals going to Indianapolis to face the Colts, and we're going to start with you because you are a Bengal lover this week. You are all in on Andy Dalton and the entire wide receiver core. Tyler Eifert, it came out today, has been practicing since the first week of preseason. No injuries, injury-free. He is not on the injury report. Is it time to believe in Tyler Eifert again? Is this Bengals offense going to be something you can believe in from their running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, all of these positions? Are they back?
Yeah, I said on a previous show this week that I feel like the Bengals are going to make the playoffs this year. They're going to creep in as a wild card. I feel like that offense is going to be really well-rounded. Obviously, the offensive line is an issue, but I don't think it's as big of an issue as it was in the past. Yes, if I drafted Eifert, play him now before he's gone. You know what I mean? He's healthy. Get him in there. I'm going to trust that he'll get through at least the one game.
If not now, when?
If not here, where? So, yeah, I get him in. I'm going to tell you something very interesting. I had a conversation on Twitter today, but Mixon's in for me, obviously, A.J. Green. And, yeah, I was given a poll today by our friend Fallon, who was very supportive during the podathon, and she had choices between Mariota, I believe Tyrod Taylor, one other quarterback, and Andy Dalton. And I shot back with a red rifle, baby. Andy Dalton would be the guy for me this week. Kevin, have you heard of Mike Clay?
I've heard of him.
He released every 20 minutes today on Twitter his final breakdowns and team reports for all the teams all year. And he went to positional breakdowns. And the Colts are ranked 32nd overall in his defensive rankings for 2018. I'm telling you, they suck.
They're all wrong.
This is some crazy hill.
They will finish.
I cannot.
They will finish 20 or above.
Oh,
wow.
Baby. All right.
I'm writing that one down.
Write that one down.
20 or above.
I'll say this before I turn over to Kevin to talk about this game. I was answering some questions on Twitter today, and a guy asked, who should he start in place of Doug Baldwin? And one of the choices was John Ross, and he wrote he's leaning John Ross. And I wrote back, listen, it is a great matchup this week, but you would need that big play out of John Ross, which I think you're going to get this year. Trying to figure out when you're going to get it, it's not going to be easy. Doug Baldwin practiced fully today, and he's going to play. I understand Baldwin's got an extremely tough matchup this week, but would either one of you guys in week 1 play John Ross over Doug Baldwin?
No.
It's really tough to do that. Really tough. I want to have him starting, but it'd have to be like definitely 16 team or above.
I want to live in a life where John Ross is a viable option instead of Doug Baldwin. I would enjoy that life, but I don't think we're in that life right now.
I'm very happy to have him on a lot of my best ball teams. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there is a chance. There is a chance.
Yeah, he's an ideal best ball candidate this year. Absolutely.
So,
all right, Kevin, quickly for the Colts, Andrew Luck back in regular season action. Do you think everything's going to come back smoothly for him? He's got a pretty nice matchup as well. The Bengals do have a decent secondary, but they are obviously going to have to score a lot of points to keep up with this high-vaunted Bengals offense. So what do you think from Andrew Luck? What are you expecting from them? We know that run game is going to be something you don't want any part of, but the aerial attack should be something that's good. Yeah.
Hey, when the Colts defense holds the Bengals to 10 points, you're going to be
First quarter, we're talking? First quarter?
Look, I think Andrew Luck's going to come back and he's going to be fine. The one thing that Andrew Luck's value is usually insulated by is the rushing attempts, and I think that those might be limited. You may not see him out running around as much. I think the direction for him is going to be stay in the pocket, throw it away before you get hit, and try to protect yourself a little bit early on. So some of that may be a little bit down, but I think that he's going to be what Andrew Luck is, because I don't think he knows how to play any other way. And so I expect good things out of Andrew Luck. I expect good things out of T.Y. Hilton. I think that Eric Ebron is obviously, the guy. I'm kidding. Look, here's the thing.
I was like, what did he just say?
Yeah, no, but I don't love Doyle either. I think because they're going to cancel each other out a little bit. I think Luck's going to use both of them. I know that Doyle is kind of his binky, so he may get a little more catches, but I do think Ebron's going to be used, so they may hinder each other's value a little bit. But then again, there's really not much else as far as receivers. So
that was going to be my exact point, Kevin. Like, who's the number 2 wide receiver in his offense? Ryan Grant.
Yeah,
I mean, are you really sold on that?
Could you see? I mean, I can see a world where Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle get 8 to 10 targets each. So, and that's good production for a tight end. So maybe they're both top tier tight ends. I'm not touching a single running back on the Colts. I'll tell you that much. There's not a single one that I have any interest in this game, and probably for the first few weeks.
Jordan Wilkins may or not be making an appearance in my starting lineup in falafel. We might just
16 teamer. It's understandable though. It's 16
ugly.
Teamer.
Hey, we talking ugly.
He's no Nick Chubb.
Hey, you guys will be upset when one of the trio of rookies that I drafted actually hits.
No, I think one of them will be good for the season. I don't know about week 1 for any of them.
It'll be interesting to see what the owner of that team does with it next year.
No, see, that's the beauty of it, Steve. They're all perfect to go right in between DeAndre Hopkins and Alvin Kamara in my keeper pecking order. So
I was saying I don't know if you're going to be the one that gets to keep them.
Oh, you think I'm going to be relegated? That's not a chance.
Oh,
not a
shots
chance.
Fired.
We have Gigi watching on the YouTube feed, and I think there's, it's very clear that I'll finish ahead of him. So,
yeah, I don't know about that one there, Kev. I don't know about that one.
Remember when I used to call him our little Gus, and I found that the kid is like 6'5" or something. He's humongous.
Yeah, he's way bigger.
Taller than all of us.
He's just little Gus. Yep. But guys, we had our new sponsor, MyBookie.com, at the beginning of the show. You heard Kevin read through all the wonderful things you could go do there. And what better tool to use than the quantedge.com. They have all the tools you need to play like a pro. Stop losing to the pros if you're a DFS player or a sports bettor. With their lineup optimizer, their injury tool, wide receiver cornerback matchups, and head-to-head tool, you'll be armed with everything you need to win. Make up to 150 lineups in seconds. See matchups to exploit and compare players to help you make the right decision about the guys you are on the fence with at thequantedge.com. You'll get exclusive access to their industry experts, articles, podcast, and the TQE community by participating in a premium membership chat. We here at the Fantasy Football Funhouse have a special deal for our loyal listeners. If you use promo code FFFunhouse, you will get $10 off the first month. Go there now, quantedge.com, sign up. This is like peanut butter and chocolate. They go together great. You need these two things. You want them on your wall.
Who says peanut butter and chocolate and not jelly? I mean, I get it. Peanut butter and chocolate's awesome, but peanut butter and jelly is the combo. I mean, that's the one that everyone knows.
Reese's peanut butter cups, my friend.
What's wrong with you?
You just fall off the apple cart for God's sake?
Like I said, peanut butter and chocolate good, but peanut butter
jelly time.
Yeah, peanut butter and jelly is the known commodity there.
Our good friend Brad Reyes, who was on with us not that long ago, he has daily play draft rankings, or weekly play draft rankings, I should say. So if you ever wanted to get into play draft, you have a guy out there, a very reliable guy. He knows what he's doing, and those rankings are up there on TQE. Also, they're attacking every form of gambling and DFS and daily and season long and whatever the hell you got. They got a tool that will make it better. So go over there today. FF Funhouse is the code to use. $10 off.
That's FFF Unhouse.
3 F's and an unhouse.
That's right. All right. We have rambled on for far too long already. We've got 8 games left to go.
In 10 minutes.
And not a lot of time to do it in. So we're going to go through these ones, try to keep your answers as concise as possible. Gentlemen, Great. Moving on. The Steelers and the Browns. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell not going to be there. So, Kevin, we'll start with you. Is James Conner somebody that you can pick up off your waiver wire and instantly just plug in this week? Or are you hoping to have somebody that you might have picked up off your bench, maybe a Peyton Barber, Lamar Miller, I think, obviously, Carlos Hyde? Those are all guys that you could have gotten later rounds. Where does James Conner rank for you this week? Where would you feel comfortable putting him in?
I don't have my rankings yet for the week, so I can't tell you where he ranks. But I think he's going to be serviceable enough. They're going to look. I think that the Steelers are going to use him, right? I mean, he's going to get some volume because they're a one-back team, right? You're not going to see a lot of Jalen Samuels or any of the other running backs on the roster. Stephen Ridley, while they should use him, he's
God, man.
But no, so I think you can expect Conner to get probably at minimum 15 to 20 carries, right? So that kind of volume, it's going to get you some fantasy points. So I'd probably be comfortable putting him in as at least a flex, if not a running back too. So yeah, I'm using him, and I like the chances here. The Cleveland Browns, while their defense should be improved this year, they were towards the back half or third of the league last year in running back points given up. So overall, I think that I think it's a good matchup, and I think that they're gonna. I expect Pittsburgh to get ahead fairly early, which could be a positive game script for Conner as well. I'm starting every single Steeler I could think of in this game, to be quite honest with you.
Vance McDonald?
Not him.
David Grimble?
No. But no, Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Juju. I might even start James Washington in deeper leagues, to be quite honest with you. Just get them all in there, because I think Pittsburgh's going to come out firing, and they're going to score a lot of points.
All right, that was super concise. Thank you. Sal, the Browns.
Start Jarvis Landry, hold off on all other wide receivers in this offense this week. Get Njoku in there. And Carlos Hyde. Pittsburgh 17th versus running backs last year, gave up 13 rushing touchdowns. I'd get Carlos Hyde in there this week.
He should have a broken toe by like the third quarter, so it'd be nice.
Don't say that. It is sad how many teams I have Carlos Hyde on
when
this
they
year.
whip the Chubb out.
That's not going to become a thing. It can't. All right. We're going to move on. The Kansas City Chiefs, the new look, no defense Chiefs, going to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. Sal, we'll start with you here. The Chargers, put everybody in that you can, except for a tight end, of course. They've got 3 wide receivers, 2 of them named Williams. They've got Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers, all of them. Play them.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't have to use Terrell Williams or even Mike Williams in this first week. I'd like to see those guys play first. If I have some tough matchups with some other guys, I'd probably lean Mike Williams first before Terrell Williams. But yeah, all the main guys, Gordon and Phillip Rivers, I hate them. But like I said on the previous show, I think Phillip Rivers is going to be in an MVP conversation, NFL MVP conversation this year. So I'm expecting big things specifically on that pass offense. And I'd hold off on Virgil Green.
I think the real question is Antonio Gates, right? You going to play him?
Week. Yeah, Virgil Green is listed as the starter for this week. I'd be holding off on Gates. I got to see how some of those other pieces fit. And this is a good chance to see him. I think they're going to get an opportunity to throw the ball around a ton.
All right, and Kevin, on the Chiefs side of the ball, they've gone up against a pretty good Chargers defense, but they've got Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins. They've got offensive firepower. I don't think you sit any of these guys really, except for maybe Sammy Watkins. But what are you expecting out of the Chiefs this week? Do you think that they are going to come out firing?
I think that similar to the Patriots having to play the Texans week 1, it's tough to play the Chargers week 1 because they're another team that will regularly get injured, but they seem to be healthy, at least coming into the season a little bit more so than normally. So, yes, this will be a tough matchup for the Chiefs, I believe. However, I'm starting Kareem Hunt. I'm starting Travis Kelce. Given where you probably drafted him, he's not on any of my roster, but given where people drafted him, you're probably starting Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. I don't like those guys, and the reason I didn't draft them is because I don't know which one's going to be the guy week to week. I think that you could see those guys flip-flop every single week. One will have a big week, the other will have a dud. I think that could happen more often than it could not. And even if it doesn't happen, I think you're getting two guys that will have a mediocre game and be disappointing that in that way. So I hate that situation all around. So, other than that, so Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. I'm not starting Mahomes until I see a couple of games from him.
Yeah, as the big Mahomes fan here, I got to agree with Kevin. Fewest passing touchdowns in the league last year, or maybe the second fewest, but right there, and the most interceptions. Chargers defense last year. This is not the way for him to get broken in. I don't like him this week.
And then I believe they added Derwin James to that defense this year, right? The safety from Florida State.
Who looked good in the preseason already.
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised that he was able to fall to them, and so it was a huge steal. That secondary just got even better. So
did we lose Steve?
It looks like we might have lost Steve a little bit. So.
Agree.
Steven, come back.
Steve, mute yourself for a little bit here. I'm going to take us through the next game. And Sal, if we have the Seahawks and the Broncos, it's pretty ironic that we lose Steve during the Broncos discussion, but we'll start with that side of the ball. You got Case Keenum coming in to lead this team, and you have obviously Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, the new rookie Cortland Sutton, who people expect big things for later on, but maybe not in this first season. But I think what everyone really wants to know about the Broncos is the running back situation. Royce Freeman, we've seen now in these later drafts going as high as the second round. Are you? Is he an automatic start for you this week?
Well, I think I'm playing him if I have him. And truth be told, I don't own him anywhere, absolutely anywhere. And I legitimately play 50 leagues. I don't own Royce Freeman anywhere. Not that I don't like him. When he started to get talked up, he was just going way too high in the leagues that he was going, as you just mentioned. So, the Seahawks, I think it's time for them to go down, and that defense is crumbling. So I don't have a problem starting the main players in that offense. Maybe I'm not starting Keenum. I got to have better options than Keenum this week. But I'm starting the two main wide receivers. I think Sutton's going to be on the field a lot in 3 wide receiver sets early, but I'm not ready to start him. So I probably play, if I own Royce Freeman, I'm playing him.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. You're probably getting him in as at least a flex. I still think that Devontae Booker is going to be used, at least in the beginning of the season. Maybe Royce Freeman runs away with the job if he's, successful. I'm not a huge Royce Freeman fan to begin with, so I could see that being more of a timeshare than people, think. But at the very, least, it sounds like he's going to get the opportunity. I'm with you. I'm a big Demaryius Thomas fan, have him on a lot of rosters because I think the guy just, he's very consistent. He's very stable. I think Case Keenum's going to love using him. They've already talked about moving him all over the field a little bit more this year than they have in previous years. So I think that's good. I don't know that I'd be starting Cortland Sutton too much until, you see a couple of good games for him and see him get a lot of targets. I do think he'll be on the field, but in redraft formats, I just don't know that this is going to be his year. Expect big things out of him from a dynasty perspective as you go forward into next year when, we'll probably see Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas move off of this team. Let's talk about the Seahawks a little bit more. You mentioned the defense is crumbling. I agree with you there. I think that they're going to have a very difficult year on the defensive side of the ball. We talked about a little bit on the last show that I think that Pete Carroll's message and Pete Carroll's whole shtick might be getting a little old. But we know about Doug Baldwin being injured. Are you worried at all about Russell Wilson this year?
Me personally, Russell Wilson is my number 2 quarterback off the board this year. So no, I'm not worried about him at all this year, and I'm sure Russell will get his in this game. But a very interesting stat I came across when looking at this game. Do you know what team gave up the fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks last year in the NFL?
Is it the Broncos?
No, it's the Bills. But the Broncos gave up two more yards. The Bills gave up 127. The Broncos gave up 129. So basically, they were right at the top of the league. But they gave up 129 and only 1 touchdown to quarterbacks last year. So, it's a new year. they didn't play against Russell Wilson last year. They probably didn't play against a lot of rushing quarterbacks, but they do have the players in place to keep a quarterback in check. We know that. We know the guys that are on this defensive line. So while I think he'll have to work for it this week, I think Russell Wilson will be a guy I'm going to still, wherever I own him, I'm going to be playing him.
Real quick before we check in with Steve, what are you doing with the running backs in Seattle? Carson listed as the starter, but we know that the Penny has been practicing this week, and they still have some other guys in the fold there. CJ Prosise and
I'm a Carson guy. I have him in a couple of dynasties, which was nice, and I did draft him this year. But wherever I got him, I didn't have to take him as my number 1 and number 2 guy. So I'm going to probably hold and see how it plays out for a week before I have to get him in any of my lineups.
Remember that time you were really high on J.D. McKissick? It was fun.
Him and I got high. We got high a couple of times.
This sounds like that might have been the problem. Steve, are you back? We got through a whole game without you.
I'm here. Was it okay?
I mean, we got through the game. It took us 15 minutes. I know you like to move things a little quicker. So if you want to, and it looks like he's frozen again. So we're going to keep moving along here without him. Cowboys and the Panthers. Sal, Panthers, real quick. I am as high as you can be on Christian McCaffrey this year. I think I've made that very clear. It's nice to see some other people starting to come around as well and agree with that. So, but you're a big Cam fan. You're a big Cam Newton fan. Who do you think this offense runs through this year? Is Cam still the man? Is he going to score the most points, be the dominant force for the Carolina offense, or is this kind of going to be Christian McCaffrey's show this year?
First, I like to say for Frozen Steve that Steve was the original McCaffrey guy in this show going back to last year. He named him Tiny Dancer. And I think he's got to become the official running back of the show this year. We all love him. We all like what he can do, and we all have him in a Scott Fishbowl. So, I think this offense will always run through Cam Newton. Always, as long as Cam Newton's there. That's the type of player he is. He's, it's the same type of thing he is off field. He's a larger-than-life personality. He's a charismatic guy. Sometimes he's a crybaby and a powder. But this team goes as he goes, period. It absolutely runs through him. And I didn't get him in a couple places. I was hoping to get him like the Falafel League the other night. He went even before Brady. I wanted to get him, but I wasn't able to do that. So, if I have Cam, he's in my lineup because he's that wild card and he's that rushing touchdown and rushing yardage guy that just makes a quarterback that much more valuable every season.
Yeah, I guess I understand what you're saying that with the rushing ability and the offense still runs through him. I think they're looking to dial it back a little bit. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm so high on Christian McCaffrey this year is I think they want him. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to change who he is. I don't think he's going to change the way he plays that much. But I could see them taking a few carries away from him, and I really think that they're going to try to limit him a little bit more. We saw in the preseason McCaffrey getting some goal line touches, which I thought was nice. So maybe they do, try to take the ball out of Cam's hands a little bit more down in that area. On the, for other people on that offense, I'm not starting, DJ Moore yet. Funchess is a guy, Olsen and McCaffrey, I think, are the plays there. What about on the other side of the ball? Cowboys have no wide receivers to really speak of. Sal, are you starting any of their wide receivers? Except that, maybe Hearns in a deep league?
No, you'd be crazy to start any of them even in deep leagues. Even in deep leagues, I'm guaranteeing you found something that's a better option. So the only guy I'm going to start there, and Carolina had a tough run defense last year, but the only guy in this offense this week, and that includes Dak, I'm starting is Ezekiel Elliott because he's premier.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about Dak because, we know that there's no real wide receivers to speak of, but at the same time, even if they spread the ball around, Dak could still get his, and he's got a little bit of rushing ability. So, but it sounds like you're still holding on Dak.
Yeah, his Carolina defense is good all around. Again, Dak wasn't being drafted in an area where he's your quarterback one this year. So you have somebody on your roster most likely, unless you're in a really deep league or a 2 QB league. I don't see how you're putting him in your lineup this week. Let me see how this offense runs. Let me see what wide receiver steps up. If a wide receiver steps up, what tight end steps up. They don't even have a clear-cut tight end on this team, and they don't really have a pass-catching back. They They say it's going to be Zeke a little bit more this year. So it's, this could legitimately be a really bad offense. They have talent there, though, so I'm figuring the talent will figure it out, but not in week 1.
We can move along to Washington playing Arizona, and I think we can do this game pretty quickly because in my mind, there's not many players in this entire game that I'm starting. I think obviously David Johnson on Arizona's side of the ball is the guy that you have to get in there, and I think he'll have a good game. Alex Smith may be a guy that you might look at in deeper leagues. I don't know that you're starting Sam Bradford. And as far as receivers, I like Jamison Crowder to pair with Alex Smith. I think he's going to have a big game, a lot of targets, particularly in PPR formats. I don't know that I'm starting Adrian Peterson. I don't know that I'm starting any of the running backs. Jordan Reed is a guy if he's playing. I mean, he's similar to Eifert, if not now, when? So. But are there any other players that are interesting to you in this game?
Yeah, I can't say there is. David Johnson has the chance of coming back and having an opening day similar to what I thought about Kamara before. The Redskins gave up nearly 1,800 rushing yards last year. They were 6 yards off of worse than the league in rushing yards yielded to running backs last year. And the Cardinals were top 5 against running backs. So the Adrian Peterson hype, as much as I love him and I still have him on the Falafel Assholes roster, it's going to be tough. I'm going to probably put him in a league like that because it's a 14-team league and we have a lot of flex plays. But if you're in a typical league, a 12-team league, you have to have gotten somebody that's got a clear path to good volume and good work this week. I think Chris Thompson is probably the only other guy I want to get in there, and that's because they're going to probably have to dump the ball off a lot because they cannot run it. So that's kind of the way I see it going. Not a whole lot of goodness in this game outside of David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald.
So we move along to the Sunday night game, and we go from one game, which I think will probably be low scoring and maybe a little boring, to one game that could be straight fireworks. The Packers and the Bears play in Green Bay on Sunday night. Heated rivalry, two teams that, the Bears, they're pushing all their chips in this year. They're looking to be that LA Rams team that makes the jump this year. We know that a lot of people are expecting some things out of Mitch Trubisky this year. They've brought in Allen Robinson and Trey Burton, and
Steve loves drafted Trubisky. I wish he was able to talk right now.
Yeah, if he could talk right now, I know he'd be talking him up. But there, you know what? Honestly, there are a lot of weapons on that side of the ball that you're going to have in your starting roster. Trubisky may not be one of them, but Jordan Howard is a start. Allen Robinson is a start. I think Trey Burton's a start. I think you can see, Tariq Cohen being started in the flex play in certain leagues, and it's just so.
We play
having
in leagues
said
that have sometimes 2 and 3 flex positions. So yeah, you'll be looking a little bit deeper in those leagues.
So let me ask you then, in those leagues, is Trubisky a starter? If we're expecting good things out of all those offensive weapons, he's got to steer the ship, right?
Well, we've had this conversation before where receivers or running backs could have a good game. It doesn't necessarily correlate to the quarterback and an offense having a good game, because we also know that interceptions cost you points in fantasy football. So he could do enough to get touchdowns, but the touchdowns might only be worth 4 points as opposed to the 6 points that they're worth for others, and then throw 2 interceptions, and those 4 points are wiped completely out. So, no, Trubisky is not a guy that I'm going to be starting in week 1 in standard leagues. I don't, but yet I do feel comfortable getting his weapons in there.
All right. On the other side of the ball, we know you're starting Aaron Rodgers. You're definitely starting Devontae Adams. It gets a little tougher from there. Jimmy Graham's probably a start, even though I'm curious to see how they're going to use him and what we're going to see there. I think we expect him to be a big red zone target. The running backs are tough. Obviously, Jamal Williams looks like he's going to be the starter. Ty Montgomery's going to be used. Aaron Jones not there, but I don't know that you're counting on either of those guys. I think people are, and that makes me nervous, Sal. I'm not as big on Jamal Williams to start this season.
Yeah, Jamal Williams, on a serious note, is somebody that Steve does love. He's had Steve's full backing since he came into the league. I might say I'd play him this week because I know the Bears are coming out and saying the Packers have nobody who can stop Khalil Mack. But if I'm not mistaken, Khalil Mack is probably not in game shape. There's a difference between working out on your own and working out in NFL training camp, doing football things and playing in preseason games and getting into football shape. So while he's a devastatingly great defensive player, defensive end, linebacker, wherever they want to line him up, I don't know if the Bears run a 3-4 or 4-3 because I don't like the Bears. But I don't know that he's going to be ready, but who knows? He could come in and turn the whole game upside down. If I got to lean on a guy in this game, running back wise, it'll be Jamal Williams. But again, Jamal Williams was going at a point where he was most likely your third or fourth running back taken for your team, and you should have better options.
Yep, I agree with you there. Steve, are you back? Can you do the Monday night games?
Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you. There you are.
All right. You guys have let me out of my podcasting purgatory. I appreciate that. I'm glad to be back. It was tough to listen to you guys back on Jamal Williams.
Wrap it up.
All right. Moving on. Monday night. Jets at the Lions. Barf City in this game. Sam Darnold, a quarterback to keep an eye on, but not one that you're going to need to get into your lineups at all. You've got Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell splitting the carries back there, a backfield I'd be looking to avoid. You've got Robbie Anderson on that side of the ball is kind of the only one that you'd even consider, and you shouldn't have to be starting him this week either. I would be starting the Lions defense. They're a streaming option. They're somebody that you can get in there. And then on the Lions side of the ball, I think you got Matthew Stafford and those two wide receivers, and I think that's about it. That's all I'd feel comfortable with. There, I did that one for you guys.
Theo Riddick.
Theo Riddick in PPR leagues is a guy I'd probably be comfortable enough with, but LeGarrette Blount and Kerryon Johnson are going to cancel each other out a little bit, and I don't know that, maybe even Amir Abdullah throws in for a couple of carries there too. So,
say you drafted both Blount and Johnson this week. Are you starting Blount? If you had to pick between the two, would you lean Blount this week? Johnson for the season?
Blount's got the touchdown upside, so if I have to pick between one of the two, I'd probably go with him, because I think he will be the goal line guy.
All right. Anything else from this one? Matthew Stafford, obviously, get him in. Get him in.
Plug him in.
All right. The last game of week one.
Is that a Glade plug-in reference?
Nailed it, Kevin.
That's good. All right. The final game of week one, closing us out. The late Monday night game. The LA Rams head north to Central California to face the Oakland Raiders. Sal's Oakland Raiders, his beloved Oakland Raiders, John Gruden's Oakland Raiders.
I almost took Tuesday off to stay up late to watch this game. Ha!
What are you expecting from your team against the Rams? We saw they turned the corner last year, and then they just dumped a bunch of money into their defense this offseason. What are you expecting from them, and what do you think the Raiders are going to do for their season premiere?
I think they're going to get their asses handed to them in this game. I think it's going to be an embarrassment. I really do. I think the Rams are going to come out and show that they're one of the now premier teams in the NFL. I get the Rams getting a bye week this season. I think that they're that good. I'm getting, finishing in one of the top two spots in the NFC. And I think they come out and they just throttle the Raiders, because I don't think the Raiders have any direction. I don't think they have any clue as to what's going on. I think it's an antiquated philosophy, an antiquated offense, a weak defense, now missing a key part. And so, I don't expect anything. About the only guy I might be confident in this game is Marshawn Lynch. The Rams could be attacked on the ground last year. That was about the only place you could attack that defense. Gave up over 1,700 rushing yards. So Lynch, you got to start Amari Cooper if you got him, because you took him as your number one or high-end two wide receiver. But, I'm not happy with Derek Carr this week. I'm really just not happy with any of it.
I'd be really concerned even about Lynch, given that they, they may have given up more run last year, but they added Ndamukong Suh to Aaron Donald on the defensive line. So it's just I can't expect that they're going to give up as many rushing yards this year as they did last year. So no, that's a sad state of affairs that the Raiders have found themselves in. I do think better days are ahead. I just don't think that it's going to be the first week of the season and against this defense. So I like Derek Carr for the season. I like Amari Cooper for the season. But I even like Jordy Nelson as a low end flex play for the season. But this is not the week.
All right, that's it. Week 1 in the books.
Well, for your Rams, you're starting everyone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was a given. I'm sorry.
If they play on offense on the Rams, you can get them in there. So,
Tyler Higbee?
Yep. Get them going.
Yeah.
Do it.
Light it up.
John Kelly?
Yeah.
Deep
Flex
leagues.
play. Deep league flex play. Yep.
All right, that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and just get into that thing that I do and say thank you for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can search for us on Instagram, Facebook. You can go to fantasyfootballfunhouse.com. And good luck this week, and I hope that the season brings you everything that you want. Unless you play against me, then I hope you lose.
Yeah, thank you for checking out the show today, tonight, whenever you're listening to it. We are available always on Twitter to answer your questions right up until game time. At Leto Sal, LETOSAL, at Sid Skeet, and at Kevin Cotillo on Twitter, and of course the FF Funhouse feed. Reach out to us, guys. We're here. We want to help. I've had guys actually DMing me today who I've never ever spoken to before, and I opened up and I responded to them. So we like to help. We don't mind being bothered. So if you have some questions, you're unsure, and you just want to get another person's perspective, hit us up.
Yeah, I'll say that our motto when we were the Falafel House podcast was we care about your fantasy league, and that's true in the Fun House as well. So hit us up. We do care about your league, and we will help you through it. I just want to remind everyone to add a charitable aspect to your fantasy playing experience. Donate a league fee. Donate, get your league together to do something nice for someone else. Whatever it is that you need to do, fantasycares.net. Figure it out. Go do something nice as a group. It will make it that much better for you. As I mentioned, we will be back again next week, Tuesday night, with a live feed that'll come to you on Wednesday if you're on the podcast feed. And that's it. Till then, we'll see you later.